Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody around the world to this Insurance Nexus Reuters Events webinar on delivering value-add fleet insurance that maximizes safety. We're very pleased today to welcome a very esteemed panel of speakers, including Christopher Frankland of InsurTech 360, Cletus Nunes, the Commercial Insurance Director of Azuga, Pete Frey, Commercial Telematics and Connected Business Director of Nationwide. Also from Nationwide, we have Mark McGee, Associate Vice President, and Andrew Shockey, AVP of Philadelphia Insurance. Welcome to you all. We're really happy to have you on this webinar today. Chris, who's moderating the session, I'm going to hand over to you so we can crack on, and I hope you enjoy, everybody.
Thank you, Graham, for that lovely introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. It's wonderful to be with you again on this Insurance Nexus Reuters Events webinar. Thank you, Graham, for the opportunity here. Yes, as Graham mentioned, we have a wonderful panel for you today. It's a pretty packed schedule, so I won't take up a ton of time here, but we will be talking with the other chaps on the call about delivering value added fleet insurance that maximizes safety. So I think we're all well aware of a lot of the innovation that has been taking place across the auto industry over the past really 2 to 3 years. I think with advances around technology, telematics, IoT, we're seeing really quite an acceleration around the innovation and space, particularly when it comes to safety. Some of the things we'll be talking about this morning: improving driver safety with automated driver coaching based on actual driving behaviors, monitoring compliance of coaching, and how to limit claims of negligence with minimal inputs, the distribution of real driver rewards beyond gamification to engage drivers, how to maximize ROI on your commercial telematics program, and also balancing the cost with results by adding smartphone safety products to existing operational systems. So as I mentioned, let's move on. And Pete, I would love to bring you up initially to kind of deliver your insights around what you're seeing within the fleet insurance space.
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pete Frey. I work at Nationwide Insurance. I'm the Commercial Telematics and Connected Business Director. I oversee all of our commercial lines, telematics programs, strategies, deliveries, as well as IoT connected business programs too. So pleasure to be here. Glad to be here with this panel and be a part of this very, very important topic. Just to open up with a few words. As we talk about safety from an insurance carrier standpoint, emphasis on safety is really nothing new. We've been talking about it for years and years and years, and it's part of our job. The difference now is that we have a pretty amazing set of technology that's in front of us, as well as innovative, passionate leaders in the industry that see the opportunity to evolve things into an even more robust safety culture, if you will. And people recognize that to establish type of culture with insureds, with businesses, with fleets, it's going to take more than just the technology, as amazing as it is. Don't get me wrong, technology, huge enabler, huge catalyst to the things we're doing, whether it's telematics, whether it's the connected vehicle ecosystem, ADAS solutions, artificial intelligence, dash cams, you name it. There is now more opportunity for insurance carriers and insurance partners to help influence, educate, and protect customers. And really, that's what it all comes down to: is what's best for our customers when it comes to fleet, driver safety, and other things that are related. Most importantly, though, we have that opportunity to affect behavior. We have that opportunity to influence. We have the opportunity to change habits and point them all in the right direction, which is a great responsibility that we have as insurance carriers. When you look at the technology space, there's kind of a spectrum. I think when you look at the different available technology that's out there, you have the things that provide insight and data that you can react to. We all talk about reports for driving behavior. We talk about trips. We talk about driver scoring, video, coaching, all of that, things that you can react to, things that can help a business do what they need to do, or coach their drivers, or change what they do. You also have just-in-time type approaches where it's alerts and collision detections, geolocation, video recognition of things like fatigue or distracted driving. And you're getting into now more things like predictive, proactive, and preventative type things, contextual data that can alert you to traffic hotspots, AI-driven feature sets, ADAS integrations as insurance carriers and auto manufacturers begin to partner. So it's all just a real huge opportunity to affect things across the spectrum of how we maximize safety. I think we can all agree that fleet insurance space and the automotive space are in this state of huge transformation, and it's driven by this revolutionary technology and evolving customer needs hand in hand. It's an exciting time for all of us, for sure. But we have to see that we have to go as insurance carriers. It's a chance to go beyond just discounts, beyond just coverage as we know it. It's a great opportunity for us to go well beyond that promise of coverage and turn to more influence and service and taking customers to that next level of safety. So I'll end my comments there. Again, pleasure to be here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you touched upon a lot of the things that really are the drivers behind the innovation that we're seeing. Data, obviously, being one of them, but using data really to drive insight, actionable insight, and hopefully to kind of tell a story. I would like to remind everybody very quickly to please do line up your questions. As we go along, after our final panelist has finished, we will be taking a Q&A session. So please give thought to your questions. Our panelists would be delighted to help answer those as we move along. Thanks again, Pete. Mark, I believe you are next on our agenda. So over to you.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, Chris. My name is Mark McGhiey, and I'm the leader of the Loss Control and Risk Management Group for commercial insurance at Nationwide. We have approximately 130 safety and risk management professionals spread across the country, and it's really the role of my team to work with our commercial clients to think about and maximize their risk management programs and work with them to improve their overall risk profile. So when it comes to fleet insurance, really after we go over driver selection with our clients, the biggest issue that we're encountering is really our clients feeling overwhelmed with all of the technology, the telematics, the sensors that are out there, and really not knowing what to do. Some of the comments we're hearing from our clients are really centered around, hey, we have telematics, but we're just getting too much data and it's overwhelming us. We have some of our clients telling us, I have no idea which telematics solution would be the best for us. And so we spend a lot of our time trying to understand our clients' needs. And as you'll hear today, there are great companies and great technologies in the marketplace that can really help the commercial customer when it comes to fleet safety, fleet insurance, and maximizing safety within their operations. So what my team will work on is understanding what's important to that specific operation or business, and really trying to understand how much data they can absorb at one time. And then is there a way to quickly take that data and identify trends and really take those trends and convert them into coaching actions that will really impact overall driver behavior? And so that is something that it really, as we try to do that and walk them through that checklist, it helps them determine which technology would be beneficial for them. And then once we help them figure out the technology piece, it really comes down to people struggle with implementing a program, whether it comes from one of our partners at Nationwide, whether it's a standalone telematics or integrated solution. It's the lack of understanding of what needs to take place. And so we'll work with our customers to truly avoid some of the pitfalls. And if some of the issues come up today, I'd like to be able to go over them with everyone. But really, you know, how to implement a telematics program, how to successfully coach a driver, and how to really structure a reward program that will keep a program moving forward successfully. One of the biggest things we see are telematics programs or driver scores being utilized to penalize drivers, and that's something we really try to work with our clients to make sure that that doesn't happen. So there's a lot of things in the automotive insurance fleet area. Looking forward to a great conversation with the rest of my peers and everyone on the call. So with that, I will turn it over to Chris, and looking forward to our dialogue.
Mark, thank you so much. Yeah, my goodness. I mean, you know, we talk a lot about technology, innovation. You know, all of the cool things that we can do with telematics and IoT and sensors and mobile devices. And you know, I think sometimes what gets missed a little bit in the dialogue is the implementation side, right? I mean, we're talking a lot about some fairly complex technology, and in my experience, coming at things more from the technology and innovation side, I have seen what I think one of the biggest challenges to successfully implement some of these operations and programs is the integration part, right? And figuring out how and where to integrate some of the really innovative technology within existing operations and systems. So thank you for that perspective, Mark. You know, I'm sure we'll get some questions on that a little bit later. Moving swiftly on, Andrew, I thank you for joining us today, and would love to get your perspective on things.
Very good, Chris. Thank you very much. My name is Andy Shockey. I'm with the Philadelphia Insurance Companies in our Risk Management Services Department. And very similar to Mark and Nationwide, we have a staff of professionals around the country that consult with our commercial clients and for the purposes of inspiring risk-improving actions and on a number of fronts, including commercial auto exposures. So from our standpoint at Philly, in response to the continued challenges of the commercial auto line of business, we included in that response launching our Philly Track GPS program in 2016. Realizing that costs and contracts are fair barriers for our policyholders to overcome in terms of developing a telematics program or even considering implementing one, we offered a program that boils down to the following. Basically, in exchange for our policyholders' commitment to maintaining basic formal fleet management policies and procedures, we will provide a GPS device and access to its data for their vehicles at no additional cost. And then to enable us at Philly to provide appropriate support for our policyholder experience, we maintain full access to the GPS data. The chief aim of our program is driver behavior modification, as was alluded to before. And in terms of the growth and size of our program, starting in 2016, we placed our first 5,000 units in service. Today, we have over 45,000 units and growing across the United States. We closed 2019 with over 200 million road miles tracked. Look forward to receiving your questions and very excited to be part of this panel discussion today. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Andrew. And that's a remarkable growth rate there from units and miles tracked. You know, obviously that speaks to tremendous success around that particular program. Thank you. Our final panelist, Cletus, I would love to get your insight from your kind of perspective in the industry as a commercial insurance director. So over to you.
Great, thank you, Chris. Thank you all for attending. It's a rich topic, and very much a lot to fit into this webinar. So we look forward to talking more about it at the Auto Insurance USA conference in April. My role with Azuga is helping insurance carriers achieve their desired commercial auto telematics ROI through increasing safety and greatly reducing the claims frequency and cost. So my esteemed industry colleagues have covered a lot, so I don't want to repeat anything that they've said. We talk to a lot of insurance carriers, not just our customers, and everyone knows kind of where the commercial auto situation is right now, so we don't need to go into that. But as Pete mentioned, the simple solution is to raise rates, and that works if everyone's doing the same thing. However, companies like Philadelphia Insurance and Nationwide, as you can tell from their introductions, are not taking that direction. They're focusing much more on reducing claims and frequency. We know the costs are going to go up. The cost of automobiles is not going to come down. The cost of litigation is not going to come down. So taking that proactive step that, like both of the folks, both Mark and Andy mentioned with regards to working with carriers to reduce risks, is very, very important. But you have to ask yourself, those listening under this, kind of where does that leave the rest of the industry who's focused on more the simple solution, raising rates? From our perspective, and that is Azuga, right? Based on, you're talking to many carriers, the industry is in kind of a catch-22, right? Which is a paradoxical situation where an individual cannot escape because of contradictory rules or limitations, right? So, we hear this a lot. I can't invest in reducing claims because we're losing too much premium because of these claims. So, again, the simple answer is raise rates, and that's great if everyone's doing something. But we got to break out of this catch-22, and I think you'll hear a lot from my industry colleagues here about their focus on how to achieve that. And again, ask yourself where you're going to be as this disruption continues through 2020 and onwards, impacting. And they're going to be, Philadelphia and Nationwide are going to be impacting the adoption of these new approaches to reducing risk and leveraging the technologies. And then along with that catch-22, and I think this will probably come out from Nationwide and Philadelphia, is kind of answering the question, like, if I can get out of the catch-22, how can I be certain fleets are going to adopt these preventive tools and approaches? And I think the good news is, I know we hear this, and I hope we'll hear this on the webinar. So the technology's reached a state of maturity in automation, whereby many of the challenges of driver and fleet adoption are being addressed now, along with effort from the insurance carriers. And I'm very excited to be part of this panel, the conversation. And I think today you're going to hear a lot from our pioneering industry colleagues here about their keen focus on continued advancements in the adoption of fleet safety telematics and ROI. Thank you.
Cletus, thank you. Thanks, mate. Another interesting perspective there. And I think really four interesting approaches there, and kind of thoughts around the innovation space as it is now, and how it pertains to the kind of auto and fleet industry. We're getting some really good questions coming through. So I think what I would like to do now is to drive our attention towards some of these, and chaps, if you could comment as we move along. So Mark, you talked a little bit about educating clients, but doing it in a way that they are perhaps not too overwhelmed with this deluge of opportunity around innovation and technology. How do you educate clients so that they are not too overwhelmed? And is this something that is you've managed to put into a program, or do you kind of take it on a case by case basis?
Yeah, we started like with most organizations doing it on a case-by-case basis, but it really came out that we needed to put together a step-by-step guidance for how to determine what telematics or what solutions would be best for the organization. And we really found it divided into two groups: small fleets, and I would say, to me, whether that's under 20 vehicles or where you cut it off, small fleets, and then large, middle, and large fleets. The simpler you can make it for the small fleets, they can really just go through the simple steps of understanding what are their choices, what's out there, what are their needs, and if you think about it, what type of vehicles do they have? What type of features are they looking for? Do they want to incorporate maintenance? So we put together I would tell you, a quick guide that our customers can access over the online or through the use of one of our associates across the field. But we've also built that out to when you get into larger fleets, trying to understand how many different models of vehicles will one solution help. And it goes into a much more customized program for the larger fleets. And so our fleet group or our technology group put those together. And then one of the things that you take advantage of, Chris, whether it's Andrew, whether it's nationwide in our group, is learning from our clients what works, what doesn't, what are their needs. And so then we really took that first step, learned from it, continued to update what are the pitfalls, what are the things to avoid, so that the expertise we're gaining working with our clients can be furthered out and help others maximize their investments in technology. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. So really, it's a collaborative effort all around. Do you have you seen a mostly positive reaction to this type of education, or is there an element of it that's a little bit more negative initially and may require some more effort? And again, I think that comes down to culture and work culture and kind of how technology is permeating all of our lives in different ways. And we can talk about that around RPA, automation, but from your perspective within Nationwide, has it been mostly positive, or are there some challenges that you need to kind of address early on to get people a bit more engaged?
Yeah, it depends, and so I apologize for that answer. But when you get the decision maker, the owners, or the top management to buy into a technology solution, that's great. But one of the biggest things, Chris, is trying to implement that across the entire organization. And one of the things that really drives that negative experience or pushback from the drivers is really not explaining that the overall use of, whether it's just telematics or whatever system we're talking about, if it's trying to prevent distracted driving, is around making sure the drivers get home safely and that they're there to enjoy their families the rest of their lives. And sometimes that message gets lost in the, hey, we're here to track you. We only find out about driving behaviors when you get caught, so we're going to monitor driving behaviors all the time. And really that message, if you do it incorrectly, can sabotage an entire organization's effort to put in, technology to really drive and maximize safety. So that's one of the things that we work with constantly. Proper messaging is key.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting comment there for sure. And a question to everybody here. Thinking about that conversation with senior management, with the executive team about investments around telematics, and if you're working with a carrier, you're working with an organization where you see this as an opportunity to have a tremendous impact, not only on the operations efficiency side of things, but also on the personal side of things, as you just described. What's if I'm trying to convince top management to make this type of investment, what's the best way to approach that? And Andrew, we can start with you there.
Yes, thank you, Chris. the first 5,000 units that we placed into service were the hardest, for sure. And that includes just the very irony of the individuals that we were speaking to face to face, and it was an in-person conversation, very much. Quickly delve into the concerns around big data, and of course, what's an insurance carrier going to do, and specifically, what's Philadelphia Insurance going to do with access to the data. And very quickly, we found ourselves in the context of some of the other, we'll call it misdeeds in industry, outside of the commercial insurance space, of when big data is mishandled and people are manipulated by it. And we quickly found ourselves in that context, and we hadn't even placed a device yet. So speaking to very quickly what we were going to do and not do with the data, and that really fell into again, the importance of looking somebody straight in the eye and saying, look, we are going to continue to conduct ourselves as your business partner. And of course, it went, very specific from there in terms of their circumstance and their, the context of the conversation. But overall, I think it was a very fair concern and a very fair stopping point until we had those conversations.
Interesting. And then before you jump in, Andrew, I would just like to ask very quickly. I know you moved fairly quickly, in my opinion, from say 5,000 units to 45,000 units. How did some of those challenges change as you sort of move towards that larger volume and scale?
Word of mouth helped, and what did not change was our behavior. We just showed that we were consistent, and again, it was about service and support. And then again, using what we had. Our people are answering questions. How do I do this with the system? To the points that were made earlier about overwhelming individuals with this data, it's imperative that our clients pay attention to the data that's being provided. But it is so easy to overwhelm them. That point was made previously. I think it's worth repeating. And then you've paralyzed somebody that may or not have a designated fleet manager on staff to pay attention to this data. So we worked very closely with our equipment provider, Azuga, and they were willing to listen to us to continue to boil down the data to the most important points and alerts, rather than just slide somebody a massive amount of data and say, you figure it out. We need your help. And to the point about listening to the customer, usually when you start with their needs first and they have something on their mind, or what do you want to do with this system? And one of the ways we continue to foster adoption is we start there. And we'll show them how the system will meet that need. What keeps you up at night with respect to your fleet? What would you like to know if? We'll show you how the system does that. That's an immediate adoption point right there. Then you have their interest and then their willingness to find a way to continue to interact with their data to handle that potential concern or need. And then from there, we just have built it out, again, using our staff and the support to show them, frankly, to simply answer their phone call. Look, now we're interested here, or by the way, why we have you, we'd like to show you X, Y, or Z about the system. Realizing it was, a first endeavor for them, and frankly for Philadelphia Insurance as well, just something to this size. I mean, the vision was there, but executing it was a very careful and a lot of conversations and opportunities to show our policyholders how we're going to behave with the data.
Thank you, Andrew, for that. Here's a question that I think could help kind of arm people with the right information when they have these conversations with the senior teams. What are the financial benefits of adding a telematics program for an insurer? And Pete, happy to have you answer this one initially.
Sure, thanks, Chris. So financial benefit for the insured carrier, or was that the insurer, Chris?
Very good question. It could be, I suppose. I'm thinking more on the carrier side, but
on the carrier side?
Certainly for the insured as well. I mean, whether it's from kind of a rates perspective, but I think from the carrier side, what are those advantages of a telematics program?
I think there's a few that we're seeing, and I think you can take a look at. We've been lucky enough to see the success of personal lines telematics solutions over the last few years with a lot of the top carriers in the U.S. And if you look across, you'll see reductions in loss, higher profitability, better pricing going out, better risk assessment, all these things that are starting to prove out from the evaluation of telematics data. And then you're also getting customers that are more safety conscious. So again, more attention paid to better driving behavior, better habits. So again, going to that reduction in loss. So telematics, connected vehicle technology data, all of this benefits an insurance carrier in a number of ways, and in the commercial space especially now, kind of separating a little bit from personal lines. It affects even more than just a business auto policy, for instance. I think you're going to start seeing impacts to workman's comp or other types of coverages where on the commercial side, typically it's coverages that kind of expand the business. So indirectly, you're going to see telematics type solutions, telematics data affect a complete picture of a customer. And I think that's incredibly important, especially now when commercial lines, and everybody knows commercial auto, especially struggling over the last few years. But as we start making a dent with this type of solution or these types of solutions and data, the financial benefits will come. I think sometimes folks make they look at this like a technology solution. You roll it out. Well, when are you going to get your ROI? And the important thing to know is something like a telematics solution is an investment, and it'll have long-term benefits. But now more and more, we're starting to talk about the impacts to claims, for instance. So some of the technology that's out there today, collision alerts, collision detection, collision reconstruction, all of this type of data now can impact the claims process. So once you start improving that FNOL, first notice of loss process, once you get that data to an adjuster, now you're talking about impacting things like liability and fraud, lower costs on litigation. So it really has far-reaching impacts. It can't be looked at as just a technology project that you roll out and, right, when do we get our money back? I mean, it is an investment. So hopefully that answers that question.
So, and Chris, I'm going to jump in.
Does. Yes, please do.
Yeah, sorry. Chris, this is Mark. I just kind of wanted to jump in really quick and follow up on what Andy and Pete commented on. When you're talking to the top of the house and return of investment, your conversation first starts about increased productivity, increasing the routing of their drivers, decreasing in your vehicle maintenance, and then reduction in overall, accidents, lost time, things like that. And then once they buy into the overall return of investment, it's oh, by the way, do you know you can actually have a big impact on your overall safety culture, your driver safety, things along those lines. And then they've already bought in from a financial standpoint. But then when you break it down, if they implement it right, how big of an impact it could have on their culture, their work comp, their overall, risk profile, that's when it really turns into hey, this makes a lot of sense. And then you can take all the advantages of the things Pete and Andy said.
Yeah, and Mark, just to add now, I think when people hear fleet, sometimes they automatically think larger fleets. But when you bring it down to small fleets, 1 to 3 vehicles, where we got independent business owners that are sometimes owner operators, the discussion can be a little different. I think Andy mentioned a little earlier the emphasis on customer needs, and that I can't echo that enough. When you're talking about small business, that ROI might be a little different. It might not be about ROI of a telematics solution, but it can be what is it doing for their small business. Sometimes it can be as simple as, hey, can I get reports, for tax purposes at the end of the year? Can I make sure I have something that helps my vehicle, because small business, if a vehicle breaks down, that's a huge loss in revenue for them. So it definitely goes beyond just the ROI of the system when it comes to the customer.
So that's great, guys. And go ahead.
This is Andy. The one item I wanted to add to Pete's comment, we are definitely seeing the multi-line potential impact. One of the data points that we saw was, or that we realized, is seatbelt usage. And Philadelphia Insurance is not a workers' compensation carrier. But quite quickly, we saw the need for that seatbelt to be used more often. And again, that's a point of, what's the cost of the incident that did not happen? I always like to put that back out as a fair consideration. You're not on the front page of a newspaper because your driver didn't lose control of a vehicle because they were belted in. And it's so routine. It's in everyone's fleet management policy, of course. Seatbelt use is required. But just that simple thing and how quickly that can significantly impact 2 lines of coverage in anyone's commercial program. There again, it's using this. You get your return on investment pretty quick when you look at something so simple as that.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense, right? Typically when I look at, say, an automation-related project, you think about the short-term kind of low-hanging fruit benefits, right? The ROI that can be quickly gained from an automated routine, and then you look at the long-term perspective, which is more around the journey, the story that you're telling. And I think with Telematics, I think you guys are actually spot on. It's a question of looking at it kind of holistically as this broader thing that eventually, you're thinking about the smart driver. Thinking about things such as biometric feedback, blood glucose, blood alcohol content, heart rate. I mean, I think there's an opportunity to down the road really create this ecosystem, which is not only the smart vehicle, but much more focused around as well the smart driver. Cletus, any thoughts from you on this and kind of your perspective around the financial benefits and this model that we're thinking about a smarter ecosystem?
But I think that somewhat humbled by the pioneer partners that we have on this call. And I think they've touched on a lot of the key aspects that exist on, shall we say, both sides of the house within the carriers. As I said in the beginning, for the carriers, it is an investment. Pete really alliterated that quite well about getting involved, and you really do have to think about what's going to be the effects if you don't get involved when pioneers are really making this happen. And so, breaking up that catch-22 is important, and it raised a lot of key points. And on the other side of the house is the fleet. And I think both Mark and Andy and Pete made some really good points. It really kind of boils down to just you knowing fleets. You have to know them. At Azuga, we sold directly into fleets long before we got engaged with insurance carriers and launching programs. And understanding their daily needs and also understanding the size of the fleet and the complexity. Some don't have dedicated, fleet operators. Sometimes it's owner-operator. You need to be able to have tools that they can access on the road. You need to be able to take baby steps, right? You have to be able to graduate them from step by step. And I think it was Mark that mentioned, not overwhelming them with data. You need to be able to be very succinct and be able to deliver what they need when they need it and help them achieve the goals, the short-term goals, without coming off as big brother. And when you can establish the trust and realize that your interests are all aligned, then you can start moving the needle on behavior. And then as you go along, I think from a purely technology perspective, because I think we've talked a lot about the behavioral side, the process side, how do we get behavior to change? But with the technology to be able to facilitate some of the things that my colleague spoke about here is you got to have modularity such that you can start with very minimal, get results, and allow the fleets to grow as they go along. Maybe they start with a simple solution with a few vehicles, and maybe they start expanding into automated coaching, and then they start expanding into cameras for certain drivers that are more challenged. And one of the points that has not been raised yet is, we have always been in this world where the expectation was, the stick, not the carrot. And we believe very strongly that, and our platform is built around attaboy, not gotcha. And that was, I think Mark was talking about that as a dynamic for sort of misdeeds in the past, about punishing people versus motivating them to go forward. And that's a really, really critical step, because when you use motivation for people to be safe, everybody's just happier and adoption comes a lot quicker.
That's an awesome point. I think the idea of this kind of positive reinforcement and motivation versus a kind of you've been caught approach is enormous. Thanks, Cletus, for that. I do have an interesting question here, and we can kind of work our way through the panel from Peggy Brinkman. Assuming one takes a broad approach, as we are hearing about today, how material are the benefits, and what kind of benefits are you most proud of in terms of financial or strategic impact? And Pete, let's start with you on that one.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think in terms of what I'm most proud of, is probably a little past the financial aspects. I love the relationship opportunity that it gives us, not only with our customers but with agents. Nationwide, we rely pretty heavily on agents in our distribution channel, and this gives them something else that they can talk about with customers. We're lucky enough here at Nationwide. It's probably the same at Philly with Andy. We have a strong relationship with our loss control partners with Mark, and with Mark and our agent partnerships, it really gives good cover, and so it gives us a way to approach that holistic view with customers. And so when you're talking about that type of relationship with customers, and again, it is a little bit different in commercial, where relationships are critical to the business and to customers. Commercial can be a lot more complex than a personal lines sale. So having that discussion, having that ability to foster those relationships a little bit more, to help them when it comes to safety. The financial aspects will come after that, and I think, on the financial side, I think you do have to be a little bit patient. It was interesting listening to Andy talk about the first 5,000 devices being the hardest. That's so true. The first, getting in is difficult, but then you start to see how those relationships change and evolve, and then the financials will come with it, not only for the carrier, but for the customer as well as the agent. So for me, I think I'm just most proud about the opportunity we've had to impact those relationships and to build a more stronger partnership alongside that.
Fantastic, wonderful relationships. I think that's what this is all about. Mark, any thoughts from you on that?
Yeah, when you think about rewards or the benefit from my standpoint, having a background in safety and risk management, it's being able to look at the drivers in front of you and say, we're doing this to improve your overall safety, and to make sure that you continue to be able to do your job and do it in a safe and effective way. I know all the other benefits, but when I or some of my team, or the work that Pete does, or the work that Andrew does with Philly, impacts a driver and their life and the people around them, that's the reason why we do what we do. Sure, it's going to be loss avoidance. Sure, it's going to help build relationships with our agents and our customers, but I think I have a responsibility to the individual drivers that my team is impacting, and so that's what the big takeaway for me is.
Fantastic, that's wonderful. Andrew, any thoughts? What are you most proud of?
Absolutely. From our standpoint, I do want to echo the relationship element. That's certainly the case here. We have seen developments there, some very long-standing relationships, over 20-year relationships, certainly with our broker partners, but also our clients that have trusted us in this new endeavor, further develop. But from our standpoint, I'm most proud of just seeing people willing to take the chance to try something different. For that very purpose of, their most important asset is the individuals on their payroll, in terms of executing their mission. And is this a way that can better protect them. And seeing us, just Philadelphia Insurance, our broker partner, and our policyholder come together and continue to and try take a step and to see if this will better protect their mission, and collectively with everyone's collective best interest in mind. And this is not just something just for an insurance carrier to get ahead on financially. It can be reduced to that on a distracted type conversation. Or is this just for the policyholder, or how does our broker benefit or not benefit in this? It's a collective best set of interests that have been put on the table, carefully discussed and cared for, and the progress that we have started to see because of that is among the things I'm most proud of so far. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, those are great comments. And I think with technology, with the pace of technology now, comes with that, this sense of fear and often lack of trust, right? And I think the approach that focuses on the customer, on those relationships is exactly that, right? You're looking at this collaborative approach that involves everybody with full transparency, and I think that's such a critical thing. Cletus, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'd like to build on something that Andy and Mark both touched on, which is the driver. Traditionally, from a fleet telematics perspective, products have been mostly developed with the fleet operator in mind, and gas savings, fuel savings, and very little of them had that driver focused. And at the end of the day, there's this thing that we call the safety gap, right? Which is that we learned in UBI that if you give rewards directly to the driver, you can improve all the things I think Pete mentioned when he talked about UBI for it's pricing and the profitability and the reduction. You get all those things, but in the fleet business, traditionally most of the products were delivered to give rewards and results to the operator and not the driver. And that is what we call the safety gap. If your platform, similar to Azuga, can deliver rewards directly to the driver and make the driver feel appreciated, respected, not between a hard place and a rock and a hard place where they're being kind of pushed to move fast, get to the next customer, get the job done, and then later on they're getting yelled at for driving too fast. Bringing all that together with a focus on the driver, so that they're feeling that this is all much more manageable, and they're getting a lot more out of this. Sure, I think it's great. They all want to get home safely, but on an everyday basis, it's nice to feel appreciated and rewarded for doing what's expected of you, and that's a key component when you're thinking about your overall implementation.
Thanks, Cletus. Yeah, all good points. This one's interesting, and I think certainly pertinent as we continue to add more innovative tech. Once you add technologies to your products or to your offerings, how do you train your employees to know how and when to speak with your clients about that new technology implementation? And what do you typically implement internally to do that? Pete, feel free to have a first crack at that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're doing, and it sounds like Philly is kind of following the same path because it's critical, is I've seen other companies in the past fail at trying to launch programs like this, and they failed. One of the main reasons they failed is because they'll launch a solution, and here you go, have at it. And again, it's just a little bit more complicated than that when it comes to these types of solutions. So really educating your employees, especially the ones that are facing customers and agents, is critical. And so we've kind of emphasized education and awareness, not just with our own solution, but telematics in general. to be able to have the conversations. You heard Mark talk earlier about the conversations they have and the coaching and the guidance that they give to customers, and that's important. And so we need to equip our folks to be able to have those consultative type coaching conversations. And again, it holds true when we're talking to agents, especially independent agents when they have multiple products that they can sell, multiple carriers that are on their shelf, and they're trying to find the best solutions for customers. The more they understand, the better. And it doesn't mean that they have to get, doctorates in telematics or anything like that. But just when you break it down, telematics solution is really about the data, the service, and convenience for a customer. At the simplest terms. And the other thing too, we have to remember, telematics has been around for a long time in commercial space, not necessarily insurance. But when you look at companies like Geotab, Verizon Connect, large providers that have been servicing large fleets for a long time, we just haven't had that connection to insurance. And so that's the other aspect is adding that extra layer of okay, what does that mean from an insurance standpoint? And so we take it very seriously. We find ways to educate as easy as we can to make sure folks can have those conversations.
Fantastic, thanks, Pete. Andrew, from Philly's perspective, any comments there?
Absolutely. I will say understanding and consistency is key. I don't think either. I want to echo that comment. It's certainly not new technology whatsoever, but intertwining it to a very sensitive relationship between a carrier and a policyholder does require training and understanding. But you can put it into about any other topic between when the carrier has that philosophy and relationship of service and support, rather than just paying claims and staying quiet about the experience they are learning from those claims payments and settlements. You put it into that same vein of how else do you transmit understanding and information. And it falls very quickly into, okay, I'm used to hearing information from my carrier on other topics in this manner, and it's obviously dependent on the message being sent. But again, it just, for us, it fell into our natural delivery of information, and that's in many different ways. But in terms of the training, again, we tried to keep this as simple as possible. So while it was an endeavor, there was a training effort, of course. Like it was just said, we don't have doctorates in telematics, all right? Because that's the quickest way this will get shut off. In terms of if we have to train our people to that level, there will not be adoption at the policyholder or broker community level at all.
Yeah, I would
that makes sense. Andrew.
Oh, I apologize. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah.
The one thing
I was just.
Okay, I will go and we'll continue to hopefully not talk over each other. But I would tell you, obviously education, keep it simple, hit your distribution force, talk to your field underwriters, educate, whether it's Andrew's team, my team, that are having one-on-one conversations, and don't overcomplicate it. Talk about the pros, the cons, help educate. And if they decide to make that decision, quickly be there as a resource. It's one of those things that we've done 4-hour trainings trying to give doctoral certifications to some of our subject matter experts in the field. And at some point, you just have to stop and go, let's take a step back, simplify it, and activate it in the field. So it's an ever-changing target with how you get that message out to the field and activate it successfully.
Chris?
Thank you, Mark. No, that helps. Cletus?
I just want to add, I think, because we're really tapping into the heart of this, and I think that it's critical from a partner perspective for telematic service providers to really hear what's being said here, because all too many times, a lot of TSPs, if not most of the TSPs or telematic service providers, will sell technology to an insurance carrier but not be there every step of the way and able to provide the resources, whether it's, ranging from call center to training materials to, dedicated support hotlines, whatever it takes. And that is essential, because I think we've heard one common theme here. It just doesn't happen by itself. And a lot of failures have been because, here's your telematics program, here's your great technology, here's all your bells, here's all your whistles, good luck. And you need to really partner with people who've been through this a number of times, and you have to really go the distance with your carrier partners in making sure that you're getting them everything they need and engaged in those very same conversations, especially at the early days, that the first 5,000, making sure that you're at the table, that you are doing whatever is being asked or what is necessary, and also identifying things that need to be done as well, because that's the basis of partnership.
Cletus, thank you. And I can't believe that we're out of time. That this is absolutely flown by. I think your point about partnerships and collaboration has really kind of been a common theme talking today, right? Thinking about the different players in across the value chain. Fast-moving technology, things are changing very rapidly. New capabilities are coming to the table every day. Right. I mean, we're seeing new innovative solutions being made available, whether it's through cloud technology or whatever it might be. So the key factor here being, remaining engaged with all of those people across the value chain, including the end customer. Gentlemen, I would like to say thank you so much to all of you for your thoughts today. I think this is a conversation that could go on for much longer, and I apologize to the people who had questions that we didn't have quite time to get to today. Before I hand over to Graham to wrap things up, we do have there is the Auto Insurance USA event coming up in April, the 16th and 17th of April in Chicago, which I'm sure Graham can give you a bit more information about now. So thank you again to everybody on the panel, and Graham, over to you.
Christopher, thanks so much, and I would echo what you said. Thanks so much to all of the panelists and your insight for being so candid and talking about the challenges and also all of the wins that you've enjoyed recently and over the years with telematics and applying this within your own organizations. It's been fascinating to listen to. Just a quick note on the main event, Auto Insurance USA, 16th, 17th of April in Chicago. I would implore anyone to take a look at the website, see what we're doing there. We're gathering the biggest US carriers, the OEMs, the supply chain, all of those involved in the new auto ecosystem to define how this moves forward over the coming years. Some of our speakers on the webinar will be there. Chris, Andrew, Pete, everybody's welcome. So please do check that out. Thank you again. Join us again soon and have a great Friday weekend ahead.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris, Graham.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks everyone.